Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's been a little while since we've given a machine shop update. So we're gonna quickly go over what we've added to the shop since the last time, kind of go over what the workflow and the process of the shop currently is, give you a little insight on how we're making our smooth adjusters as well. Starting with the mill, not a whole lot has really changed other than our equipment on the table. So still the same VF2SS. This guy has been kicking for 3 years now. It was the original machine where, if you go back to the video of where we started the machine shop, this guy came in on the skid and we cleared out a little corner over by the water jet. As you might have noticed, we're now in a new area. We moved some machines in. We didn't have the space. We ran out of space in the corner over there. We're kind of running out of space again, hoping for a little bit of an expansion. For now, we'll just kind of give you an update on the mill. We have added a Saunders Machine Works tooling plate. This being the only mill in the shop right now, space limited, we have to kind of make this as efficient as possible. So the tooling plate is going to let us do that. It's going to allow us to run more parts per cycle, per time, use up the entire footprint of the table. As you can see right now, we've got just a pretty simple setup. I've actually taken our dual stations and just used the fixed jaw to move back here, just to run 2 parts. These are actually a prototype part. We are working our way into doing a full billet caster plate as an upgrade. So you might have seen those if you've seen Micah Diaz has a set. We've put a set on our wagon so far. We've got a couple of sets out for testing and fitment confirmation, and we're hoping to move into those pretty soon. That's kind of the rundown on the mill. Really looking forward to getting to program some more stuff on the tooling plate, get everything kind of as efficient as possible, working with some setups. And now we have this plate, all of our jaws and everything in CAD. So when we're designing, everything can be done in Fusion, and we know exactly how we can fit it in on the table, program everything all at once on there. So it's gonna be a really good boost in efficiency for the machine shop. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the mill. So with more machines comes more people, and we have literally doubled the size of employees in the machine shop from 1, myself, to 2. So we now have an apprentice right over there. His name is Austin. So he's already been a really big help, just kind of getting into helping me exactly what he's doing right now, setting up a machine as we can kind of take some time to get over and do some cool videos and stuff like this. Spend some more time programming the mill and gaining shop efficiencies, where before it was just, when it was me and the 3 machines, it was just kind of survival mode to make sure that each machine was running and we had the parts that we needed. So we're getting Ozzy up to speed. He's going to be a really good help in the shop. Except for when he drops stuff, which is somewhat common right now. We're working on that. So this is our newest machine here. We did briefly get into it when Adam LZ and all the guys came for the World Tour stop. We gave kind of a shop tour to everyone. Booth came into the machine shop and he got to make like a handbrake handle and saw the smooth adjusters running. But we'll get into it a little more in this video. I wouldn't say just this part was the reason for buying this lathe, but it was a big part of it, and getting some live tooling in the shop was something that we really needed. So Josiah and I came up with a package for a lathe that's gonna do exactly what we needed it to do, to be efficient, to get the parts going, and this is what we came up with. So it's an ST20Y, it's a live tooling lathe. It has a programmable tailstock as well, so it lets us do studs, longer parts, supported. The live tooling is the real big part, so I'll show you that in a second here. And right now we can kind of go over what we're making, which is a smooth adjuster. I'm sure many of you that are familiar with the channel, familiar with FDF, are aware that the smooth adjuster has basically been integrated into every control arm design possible. We make them in 2 different sizes for lowers and upper control arms now. We did make these parts before this lathe too, but we are depending on our ST15, which is just a 2-axis lathe, and then bringing them over to the mill. So it was using 2 machines. The process was about 40% longer as well than just getting it done on the live tooling lathe. So we're now got 2 more machines to do the work. This guy can do them all at once, and it's actually almost half the time. So it's been a huge, huge time savings. Gains us a lot of efficiency. Obviously this machine is very capable of doing other parts beyond the smooth adjusters, but we're making thousands of them. So basic. Oh, that's on camera, dude. No more dropping stuff. So what is a live tooling lathe? A live tooling lathe essentially has driven heads on the turret. Typically a lathe is going to have 2 axes and your chuck is spinning the part and you're turning the profile with a stationary tool. So what live tooling lets us do is incorporate geometric shapes so you don't have to use a second operation or use a mill or something else to put in the finishing on the part. So like I said before, we are just turning a round profile on the ST15 because it didn't have the ability to do the hex. Then we would move it over to the mill in a pair of soft jaws where we would do the hex and finish the part off. This is going to let us do the part all in one operation. When it comes off of the machine, it is essentially, except for a coating, a finished part. So if we take a look inside of the machine here, this is one of our live tooling heads. This is a axial head here. So what that does is this is geared. It's almost like a differential where you have a 90-degree, and then this tool will spin. So what that lets us do is machine this hex here. Well, the chuck is actually acting as another axis, indexing it, telling the tool, okay, I'm gonna hold it here, and then I'm gonna machine the hex, and then it turns it around. This has 3 axes instead of 2 as far as a lathe goes as well. The Y is adjustable as long as the X and the Z. We do have another axial holder right up there. There is a radial on the other side down there that doesn't have a tool in it right now. But yeah, that lets us do offset drilling and eccentric drilling. It lets us do machining of a hex. It lets us do engraving, all the kind of stuff that with a 2-axis lathe, you're basically taking it to another machine, using another operation, and taking more time. So when we're coming into making thousands of these parts, where we're putting them in almost everything that we can, it's a huge time saver, and it's essential for us to have this machine here, be able to control the quality of this part as well, making sure that the thousands that we do have are all up to our standards and our tolerances. Like I said, it doesn't just run these smooth adjusters. Typically we'll run a couple hundred, 300, 400 at a time. They'll go right across the road to zinc coating, which is super handy. And yeah, we'll go over kind of what we maintain tolerance wise, and we'll show you finished product, and that's about it. So this is a part off of the machine. It is still uncoated, but as you can see, if we go over to the coated one here, JL, you can see that the backside is chamfered. This is how it comes off of the machine, and it's also why we machine it with the hex first. So we could, and we did think about machining it this way, which would make it slightly easier, and we could use the radial tool to come in and do the path still on the lathe. However, it would be a lot more tricky to get this nice chamfer on the top of it, and it's what leads out as well. This part is actually inside of the arm with the jam nut on it. So we decided to machine it this way. We use a groove turn tool to do this diameter here, and then we actually use an ID grooving tool with a mini carbide bar, which lets us get that back chamfer, which was a big part of having this all done in one operation. So we didn't have to part this off and then send it over for post-processing manually or set it up in another machine just to do one little operation. So really nice having these come off of the machine and essentially be ready to be that's kind of washed off, sent over across the road to zinc, and then you'll see kind of this is what our finished product is here. So the material that we use for these is chromoly, is 4140. So it does need to be coated because underneath the car, it will rust. It's not a stainless steel. The reason that we go with the chromoly is just because the ease of machining. You can use a 304, which is going to be a nice strong material, or even get into a 316. It's a lot trickier to machine. So it's going to take a little longer. Your tooling costs are going to be more expensive. And we find that this is going to work for us better in this case, that it's easy for us to have it zinc coated. We run it across the road. It's not a big cost to have a batch done. And we think it looks really nice as well. It kind of gives it a nice flare. So that's why we go with the chromoly over something like a stainless where you wouldn't have to coat it after. So basically what we'll do is after they come off of the machine, we've got our drawings. So to check our dimensions, we use a go no-go gauge for the thread itself. So we just quickly check that guy like this. And we'll check as we run parts, we'll run batches. What we'll do is you check your first part at the start of your run and you'll let it go to, I mean, obviously because we've made thousands, we have a really good idea of what the thread tolerances are going to run at, what our tool life is going to be like. So we'll check maybe one every 10 or so and then keep those separated. So that being said, let's say you check your 10th one and your boring bar or your threading bar has, the insert is chipped off. the thread gauge doesn't check. Now we know that just those 10 can be separated. So again, a big part of doing stuff ourselves in-house, the quality and the control, knowing that all the parts that we make when they go out are going to be to the highest standard. Okay, so apparently we've got to film a closing part to this video. It is now the next day. So if you want to see anything else in the machine shop, maybe some more of the setup on our new tooling plate, maybe some more live tooling stuff, maybe some more about what machine we're going to get next, leave it in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Thank you. See you later.